A packed press room fell silent when a black woman veteran challenged Elon Musk face to face, exposing the harsh truth about life after service. What happened next sparked a national movement and left America questioning its leadership. The press conference was already in full swing, reporters battling over each other to get their questions heard. The room was alive with flashes of cameras, murmurs, and sharp exchanges. But then, a single voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Mr. Musk." The woman's voice was steady, though there was a hint of emotion she couldn't quite hide. Heads turned, conversations halted, and the room grew quiet as she stepped forward. She wasn't a reporter, that much was clear. Her presence alone commanded attention. Her military posture, the neatly pressed navy blazer adorned with pins of service, and the way she stood tall despite the weight of her words. "I'm a veteran," she began, her voice unwavering. "I served this country for 12 years, and now I can't even find a job to keep a roof over my head. What would you do to help someone like me?" The silence that followed was deafening. Even the cameras seemed to pause, their operators too engrossed to focus on anything but the scene unfolding in front of them. Some in the crowd whispered under their breath, but no one dared to speak up. It was as though the weight of her question had frozen the entire room in place. Elon Musk, standing at the podium, adjusted his stance. His usual air of confidence flickered. For a brief moment, he looked at her. Really looked at her, as if searching for the right response. The seconds ticked by, each one adding tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. The crowd leaned in, breaths held, waiting for his response. What he would say next was anyone's guess, and no one was ready for what came next. Elon Musk's expression shifted. The usual bravado in his tone softened, replaced by something more measured. He took a deep breath, gripping the sides of the podium. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice carrying a gravity that caught even the most skeptical reporters off guard. The woman hesitated for only a moment before responding. "Danielle Carter, sir." "Well, Danielle," Elon Musk said, pausing as if testing the weight of his own words. "Why don't you come up here?" The room erupted into chaos. Journalists scrambled to reposition their cameras, capturing every angle of this rare moment. Danielle looked uncertain, her eyes darting across the room. But Elon Kr gestured again, encouraging her to join him on the stage. She took a step forward, then another, each movement deliberate, as if she were walking into uncharted territory. As she climbed the few steps to the platform, the room fell quiet again. All eyes were on her. Standing beside Elon Kr, she looked both confident and vulnerable. A veteran in her uniformed dignity, but also a woman bearing the invisible scars of service and struggle. Elon Musk turned to her, microphone still in hand. "You've served this country, and for that, you have my respect. But let me tell you, your story isn't unique. I've heard it before, veterans who've given everything and come home to nothing. It's not fair, and it's not right. But I want to hear it from you, Danielle. Tell everyone here what's really going on." Danielle took a moment, steadying herself as she looked out over the sea of reporters, officials, and staff. The weight of her experiences, her sacrifices, her resilience seemed to settle in her chest. Then she began to speak. "I enlisted at 18, she said, her voice gaining strength as she went on. "I wanted to make a difference, to serve my country, and I did. I served in Iraq, Afghanistan, places most people wouldn't dream of going. But when I came home, I realized the fight wasn't over. Finding work, getting support, it's been harder than anything I faced overseas. It's like once the uniform comes off, the world forgets who we are." Her words hung in the air, and for a moment it felt like she had stripped the room of all its political gloss. She wasn't speaking for herself. She was speaking for thousands of others like her. Elon Musk's face remained stoic, but his eyes flickered with something. Recognition, perhaps, or the understanding that this moment was bigger than both of them. He leaned into the microphone to respond. Elon Kr cleared his throat, the tension palpable as he gripped the edges of the podium. His gaze moved between Danielle and the audience, his expression uncharacteristically serious. "You know, Danielle," he began, "people like you, heroes like you, are the backbone of this country. What you've just said, it's a wake-up call. And I'll admit, the system has failed you. It's failed a lot of people. But here's what I want to do." The crowd leaned in, their curiosity barely contained. Elon Musk stepped aside, leaving the podium and moving closer to Danielle. He raised his hand toward her, gesturing as if to emphasize the gravity of his next words. "I want you to work with me," he said, his voice steady but emphatic. "You've got experience that no one in this room can claim. You've been out there. You've seen what's broken. I'm offering you the chance to help fix it." Gasps echoed throughout the room. Reporters looked at each other, unsure if they'd heard him correctly. A few cameras zoomed in, capturing Danielle's stunned reaction. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. "I'm serious," Elon Kr. continued. "I've been pushing for better programs for veterans, but I need people like you, people who understand what's really happening, to make it work. So I'm asking you right now, will you join my team and help me do something about this?" Danielle blinked, clearly caught off guard. The air seemed to grow heavier with anticipation. She looked at Elon Musk, then at the crowd, and finally back to him. "You're asking me to help you," she said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "That's right," Elon Kr. replied. "Help me help them. Let's make sure no veteran has to go through what you've been through." The room erupted into a mix of reactions. Some applauded, others whispered skeptically among themselves. Social media feeds lit up with comments, theories, and debate as reporters scrambled to frame the moment in their headlines. Danielle took a deep breath, her composure slowly returning. "If this means making real change for veterans like me, then yes," she said, her voice firm. "I'm in." The applause grew louder, but not everyone in the room was convinced. While some saw this as a powerful gesture of leadership, others couldn't help but question Elon Kr's motives. And as the cameras clicked furiously, capturing the handshake between the president and the veteran, one question lingered. Was this a turning point, or just another political performance? By the time the press conference ended, the internet was ablaze. Video clips of the interaction flooded every corner of social media, sparking heated debates. Some hailed Elon Musk's gesture as a bold and unprecedented move, proof of his commitment to veterans. Others dismissed it as a calculated political stunt, questioning whether any real change would come of it. Danielle, meanwhile, found herself thrust into the spotlight. Her phone buzzed nonstop with calls, texts, and emails from reporters, advocacy groups, and even fellow veterans. Some offered their support, while others expressed doubt. "Don't let him use you," one message read. "Make him keep his promise," said another. The next morning, Danielle sat in her modest apartment in Columbus, Ohio, watching a replay of the press conference. She still couldn't fully process what had happened. It felt surreal. The President of the United States inviting her, a woman struggling to make ends meet, to work alongside him. But doubts crept in. Could she trust his words, or was she just another pawn in a larger game? The news cycle only intensified. Pundits on cable networks dissected every detail of the exchange. Some criticized Danielle for accepting the offer so quickly, while others praised her bravery. "She's not just a veteran," one commentator said. "She's a symbol of resilience and the challenges so many face after serving their country." In the days that followed, Elon Musk's administration announced a new initiative aimed at tackling veteran unemployment. It was a high-profile plan with Danielle at the forefront, her name now synonymous with the fight for change. She found herself standing on stages, speaking at rallies, and attending meetings with policymakers. But not everything went smoothly. Behind the scenes, she encountered resistance, bureaucracy, political infighting, and the harsh realities of navigating a system designed more for appearances than action. And yet, Danielle pressed on, determined to prove that this wasn't just another hollow promise. Weeks turned into months, and Danielle's presence in Washington began to make waves. Her determination and authenticity resonated with many, cutting through the often performative nature of politics. She wasn't a politician, she was a soldier, fighting a different kind of battle, one that felt just as challenging as the ones she faced overseas. But the challenges mounted. Danielle quickly learned how difficult it was to effect real change. Meetings with lawmakers were met with polite smiles but vague promises. Funding proposals for veteran programs stalled in committee after committee. And though Elon Musk publicly praised her efforts, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being used as a symbol rather than a catalyst for actual reform. One evening, after yet another frustrating day on Capitol Hill, Danielle sat alone in her office. The weight of it all, the media scrutiny, the constant battles, the whispers of doubt, felt overwhelming. She thought of the veterans she had met since the press conference, men and women who had shared their stories with her, looking to her as a beacon of hope. Their words echoed in her mind. Don't let them forget us. It was in that moment that Danielle made a decision. If the system wouldn't move, she would. She began reaching out to grassroots organizations, connecting with veterans directly, and rallying support outside the political machinery. Her voice grew louder, her message clearer. Veterans deserved better, and she wouldn't stop until they got it. Her efforts began to pay off. A bipartisan coalition of lawmakers, inspired by her relentless advocacy, pushed forward a bill to provide comprehensive job training and mental health support for veterans. Danielle stood at the forefront, not as a politician, but as a fighter for a cause she believed in. When the bill finally passed, Danielle was there, surrounded by veterans who had become her family in this fight. As she watched Elon Musk sign it into law, she felt a sense of triumph, not for herself, but for the thousands of lives that would be changed. The journey wasn't perfect, and it wasn't without its scars, but Danielle proved that one voice, no matter how small it may seem, could spark a movement. Danielle's fight didn't end with the passing of the bill. It was only the beginning. The law she helped shape became a lifeline for thousands of veterans, offering pathways to careers, counseling, and community support that had been out of reach for far too long. But her true legacy wasn't just in the legislation. It was in the movement she sparked. Veterans across the country began to share their stories, inspired by Danielle's courage. Town halls, community centers, and online forums buzzed with discussions about what more could be done. Danielle became a symbol not just of advocacy, but of what it meant to lead with authenticity and heart. Still, her journey wasn't without sacrifices. The pressure and constant public scrutiny took a toll. She missed the quiet moments she once had, the solace of her own space. But whenever doubt crept in, she reminded herself of why she started. Every letter from a veteran thanking her, every success story shared with her, became fuel to keep pushing forward. Her relationship with Elon Musk remained a complex one. Publicly, he championed her work, but privately, Danielle knew their visions didn't always align. She didn't hesitate to push back, to demand more, even when it made waves. "If I'm not here to challenge you," she once told him during a meeting, "then I'm not doing my job." Years later, Danielle's name would be etched into history books, not as a politician or a celebrity, but as a leader who reminded America of its promise to those who served. Danielle Carter's story became more than a moment in history. It became a blueprint for how courage, persistence, and an unwavering belief in justice could transform lives and ultimately a nation.